I thought it was for guests.
He is a guest.
No, he's not. He's a psycho.
Welcome to Decoding TV's coverage of Halfman. Halfman is the latest show by Richard Gadd, the creator of the hit Netflix series Baby Reindeer. I do want to mention before we get going on our conversation about Halfman that next week's show of the week is going to be Widow's Bay, which I've already seen many episodes of and I love, and I'm looking forward to talking about it with Patrick, who has not seen any episodes yet. In addition, this week there will also be a bonus episode about Beef Season 2 that I've already recorded. That's going to be a full-blown spoiler cast. So you can look forward to those, and if you want to watch those shows and listen to or subscribe to Decoding TV, a really good way to get some dialogue about those shows in your ears. But let's talk about Halfman. Halfman follows the relationship of two men over the years. Niall Kennedy, played by Jamie Bell, and then a younger version played by Mitchell Robertson, and Reuben Pallister, played by Gadd himself, plus Stuart Campbell as young Reuben. The premiere of Halfman begins at Niall's wedding, then flashes back in time to them at a younger point, where we presumably will cut back and forth in time throughout their relationship. We learn that Niall and Reuben are stepbrothers. Niall is brutally bullied and learns that his stepbrother Reuben will be joining the class that he's in from a facility for young offenders after 2 years away. In Reuben, Niall finds protection and maybe even some model of masculinity, but he might get more than he bargained for. Halfman will have 6 episodes. Patrick and I have seen just the first episode. Patrick, what did you think of the show so far?
Rough watch.
Agreed.
And sort of unclear to me upon watching the first whether it is worth the rough watch. I mean, I think you and I both come from play. This is, a commonality the two of us have, which I'm all for a bad time. The sadder the better.
Same.
The more Terrifier, like we're ripping people's let's go. Like I'm so I'm not afraid.
So you would think then that this show would be like perfect for people like you and me who like this kind of sicko stuff, right? You would think.
It is. And I think maybe that's part of it. Like, I don't know that it's a sicko show. It feels like it is going to try and walk a very delicate balance in exploring, part of Baby Reindeer, not its core theme, but definitely an element, especially in its back half, was sexuality and the spectrum of sexuality and how one discovers who they are, why they are, how they feel that way. And it feels very much like that is going to be a core component of Halfman. I just found in the episode that we watched, I found it like upsetting in a way that did not make me want to continue to discover what the show was trying to explore. It seems well made, and I applaud a show trying to it seems like it's going to attempt to balance between. It seems like a really, really tricky juggling act, especially to be like delicate and nuanced, which is I feel like is going to be the aim of the show. It just kind of came down for me by the end of it. I felt exhausted, and not in a way that but I'm ready to go deeper. Like, I'm ready to learn more. I want to understand more about the dynamic between these two characters. If anything, how I felt was, oh no, if David really, really likes this show, I will keep watching it. But depending on Dave's response, maybe I get out of continuing further down the rabbit hole that is this show. So I came away pretty mixed, and also, I don't know, maybe learned a little bit something about myself, which is usually I'm the first one to head into the foxhole on something like this. But I came out of this one, I don't know, not really all that jazzed about continuing.
Well, I want to explore that feeling a little bit more, but first I'll just share my thoughts, which are extremely similar to yours. I think this is one of those shows where I admire it more than I liked it. I think Richard Gadd, in my opinion, just off of watching Baby Reindeer and then the first episode of this show, has proven himself as one of the most interesting voices on television right now. I think he's exploring elements of human sexuality and relationships that people have with each other that I haven't seen anyone else really explore basically at all, but certainly not with the same level of audacity and frankness and just brutal honesty as he does in these shows. And so it's notable for that reason, because the relationship between the two main characters, Niall and Reuben, is just really interesting. Like that's what the show is about. It's about the relationship between these two characters. And so it's like, okay, well, I heard that. I had heard from the marketing, oh, it's about these two characters. So I'm like, okay, well, what could be so interesting about these two guys? And it turns out there's several things. First of all, they are stepbrothers because I think the sense is I get their mothers both left their fathers and then became romantically involved with each other, right? And that's he calls him a brother from another lover, I think is the phrase that he uses. And so that's just like an unconventional situation to begin with. But there's also this dynamic between Niall, who I have to say, these actors that they get to play young Jamie Bell and young Richard Gadd do not look anything like them, but I think they do a wonderful job of capturing the essence of these characters. It's like, oh, I totally get that. Like, this is the same person. Doesn't my eyes do not compute it correctly because I don't think they look anything alike. But like, they capture the essence in such a good way that I think that's just compelling inherently. But Niall is such a weak-willed, meek, timid kind of person, and Ruben is like the total opposite. That having this dynamic is I'm interested to see how it develops, but. There's also, I would say, some very, I'm going to say upsetting, homoerotic, psychosexual tension between the two characters. And I when I say that, I don't mean it's upsetting because it's homoerotic. Like I'm fully accepting of all different configurations of genders and relationships. I think it's more like, a lot of stuff in the show, even just in the first episode, seems to be happening without Niall's full consent and understanding. And that's what is like really troubling is you're seeing somebody not even take advantage of, just more like getting their will completely subsumed by another character. And it's really, really upsetting to watch. So am I going to continue the show? I don't know, Patrick. It's a tough one. The one thing that makes me feel like I'm probably going to get to the end is it is only 6 episodes. So it's like, oh, okay, well, you're not asking me to be in this for like 15 episodes. I'm going to get to the end of the story in 6 episodes. That's not a big ask. I might just wait till the end and then watch them all at once is my guess. I don't think I can like stay with this story week to week is my guess. But
block out an afternoon and just like, all right, we're just going to see where I can't tell if that's a better way or a worse way to do it, depending on where it goes.
I prefer to just mainline the darkness all at once. And that way I don't need to like dwell on it for that long. So Patrick, what were some of the upsetting elements of this story for you?
I don't know. It was just sort of there's a sequence that occurs, like with, young Ruben in the bedroom where he sort of loses his virginity
Niall, I think you're referring to.
Niall, yes. Loses virginity. And I guess it's part of what I feel about the show is I respect its ambition, what it's go for, but I do think some of the execution is off the mark. In the sense that I feel like I'm constantly sitting back with the show and going, like, I know what you're going for. I don't know though, and so I feel myself at a distance with the show, and maybe at times I felt similarly during Baby Reindeer, but part of what was so compelling about that was how personal the narrative was, like the fact that we were pulling from, in some way, like, real life events that were being, fictionalized to some extent here.
Right. I mean, they literally said, like, this is a true story at the beginning of Baby Reindeer, right?
Right. So, and go back and listen to our podcast about that as we unpack a lot of the kind of drama.
They didn't do that for this one. They didn't do that for this one. And I think they learned their lesson about why it's a bad idea to say that at the beginning.
And I think there is a little bit of, I guess I can only describe it as guilt and not wanting to watch further, because I have found myself, I've got 2 young girls, and so I'm deeply interested in media that is trying to explore young men. Obviously, the state of young men is going to be very important, in all likelihood for, like my young daughters as they get older. So shows like Adolescence and things like that are exploring, like, why are men the way they are? How do we get there? And I think exploring that's, I think some of that is explored to a certain extent in Baby Reindeer. A lot of it's explored, I think, really thoroughly and interestingly in Adolescence. And I see parts of this where, like, oh, this is on paper some of the stuff that I want to see. I want to see media stories that reckon with and pick back at the complicated nature of young men, young boys, and how they arrive in different places as they get older. And obviously the angles that, Halfman is taking are different than something like Adolescence, but they're of a part that I think is we are getting more and more media that is thinking about how are we producing the young boys that exist in the world today, and taking that from different angles. And so like that part was like, oh, I guess I should want that. And I guess, I don't know, the show like almost made me like uncomfortable to the point of, I guess I don't want to explore it here or in this way. Maybe that's a me thing.
Yeah, what is the source of the discomfort though? I mean, I think
it's like
source,
at 11. You get there's like
right.
Like the pacing of the show is you are uncomfortable, and the kids are put in uncomfortable, exploitative.
And there's a certain like viciousness,
yes,
to it, right? Like when you first see Niall being bullied, just the way in which he's bullied is. I'm guessing stuff like that actually happens in real life, but it's so extreme the ways in which he's bullied. Like the guy rubbing his belongings all over his genitals and forcing them into his mouth and stuff like that. It's unconscionable. You're watching unconscionable acts on a regular basis in the show.
And like nobody's really likable. And I mean likable in the sense like I need an entryway into like one of these characters. And I don't know that I'm getting that from either brother. And that doesn't mean the show has to, but it does mean it makes it difficult for me to live in the show to a certain extent because everyone's sort of operating at 11. And I do feel like the show starts at, right? Like it opens with the wedding scene with a fight with two characters. We don't really know why are they acting this way. Right. So in some ways I took some issue with even just the structure of the show. I had trouble getting into it from the jump. I don't know how to get into it with these characters. All the subject matter is ick. And I think those things eventually added up to where I got to a place with the show by the end where, if I could have hit play on a second one, maybe I would have just to see where it went. But given the option to just do anything else, I don't
do anything else with your life.
I didn't feel the pull. Like I did not feel the pull to want to see the next step with these characters, which is what then led me to exploring like, why do I feel bad? Am I the only one that feels bad? Am I using this as a weird defense mechanism to not explore the show? Is this a me thing? And actually the reason I should watch it is like why the show is being so, so complicated and upsetting. And then I read enough like critics reviews. They're like, like, no, like you that's a normal way to feel. Like you're good. I'm like, okay, so maybe I'm okay if I wanted to get off the Halfman train, and I will just see what David thinks of it by the end if you choose to keep walking it.
I think you and I feel similarly, which is that if a show subjects you to a lot of emotional punishment, that it needs to have a really good reason for that. Like you need to really justify. You're saying something transcendently insightful about the male condition or human sexuality or relationships or whatever. And it seems like from many reviews, the show does not quite hit that level. I also think you're right that the tone is relentlessly bleak. Like usually most shows have a mix of like, oh, lighthearted, fun, nice parts, and then
relief.
Yeah,
like
relief.
It could take many forms, right? Like it doesn't. I don't necessarily.
There is some of that. There's some like nice tender moments between the characters in the show. But I think you and I think that that's not enough. It's not enough what the show gives you, and I might agree. So at the end of the day, Patrick Klepek, I don't think you like dislike the show, but you're not a fan, and I would say. I find the show to be quite unpleasant, and I'm very skeptical that it's going to be worth it at the end, but I'm probably still going to keep watching. I do not expect you or anyone else in my life to watch this show, but I'm going to keep watching.
I guess the last thing I'll say, though, is I'm glad it exists because even if this one didn't work for me, I think it's a very interesting sophomore work from Richard Gadd as a creator. And even if this isn't a road I want to walk down with him, I'm glad he and someone like him is exploring this. Because obviously, I have my qualms with Baby Reindeer, but like I would recommend it very easily. I think it's a very interesting work that has a lot to say, and he clearly has more to say. And so just because this one didn't work for me, one, it's a sophomore work. Like that often happens with creatives in which like where they choose to go next and how they pull on those themes may not land in the same way, almost purposely, right? Like I'm going to go harder on X, Y, and Z and purposely alienate part of the audience I brought in through Baby Reindeer. I could absolutely imagine that being part of the sort of creative impulse here. So even if I don't want to go on this journey with Gadd, I'll be the first to sign. Like I enjoyed Baby Reindeer, got enough out of that show that the moment whatever is announced next from Richard Gadd, I will be there the moment that it shows up.
To watch the first episode and then maybe quit right afterwards.
Well, but I just mean he's such a unique voice, and what he is trying to, the subjects he's trying to explore, I will be there to see what you're trying to say, even if I don't want to hear the whole sentence.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, I would argue we don't know exactly what he's trying to say yet. But,
right. I agree.
But maybe when I get to the end of the show, I'll report back and we can talk about whether or not the journey was worth it. Anyway, those have been our thoughts on Halfman here on Decoding TV with Patrick Klepek and me, David Chen. Be sure to tune in next week. We are going to be discussing Widow's Bay as our show of the week. We'll be watching the first few. I mean, I've already seen most of the first season. Patrick will be watching the first few episodes, and then we'll be discussing the season premiere. But definitely check that show out. This has been Decoding TV's Show of the Week.
Hey, it's the Show of the Week. Yeah.
Hey everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.